Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally here. After you guys have been requesting it ever since I started doing Artery gear content, we now have the gear guide on the channel. I know today is the day that we're finally going to be tackling this topic. And let me just say I'm sorry for the wait. This video is going to take me quite a while to make, especially the editing process. I really can't wait. Jesus Christ. And I know I don't ask for this a lot, but if you can, please like the video because my suffering through this editing process is going to be pretty intense. As always, with pretty much every guide on the channel, there's going to be timestamps down below in the description so you can go to the exact part you need to go to, or if you want to take a break from watching the video. This video has tons of information in it, and it may be a little bit overwhelming, so you need to take a break every now and again. Hey, you do you. So first and foremost, let's talk about how you obtain gear. Gear can come from multiple sources, like for example, events, main story, but the main way you're going to be getting it is through the battle operations menu. If you go into battle operations, you see this thing called target elimination, and if you click on target elimination, you will get access to all the targets you can currently hunt. From left to right, this goes Centaur, Iron Maiden, Harpist, and Octopus Girl. I don't know if that's her actual name, but that's just what I call it. Centaur drops immunity set, speed set, and hit set. Iron Maiden drops attack up, HP, and defense. Harpist drops critical, counter, and immunity set. And Octopus Girl drops crit damage, lifesteal, and counter engine. And if you go into these, you can see exactly what you're going to be getting down below in the bottom right. And of course, the higher you go up, the better the rewards get, from originally starting at 3-star and going all the way up to, of course, 6-star gear. As for gear pieces themselves, let's talk about how they work. So in total, you have 6 gear slots: your gun, your core, your plate, your thrusters, your scope, and your chip. And these can actually be separated into top row and bottom row. And the reason why I say that is because top row gear can only roll one stat as their main stat. As you see here, the gun can only roll attack as its main stat. The core can only roll HP, and the plate can only roll defense. By the way, these are all flat gains, meaning that there are no percentage-based main stats for the top row. However, with the bottom row, oh lord, this gets pretty crazy real quick. So I'm just gonna throw it up all on screen. Guys, take a screenshot. Do what you want with it. But there's a lot, so try not to get overwhelmed. Just know that any of those can roll as your main stat on your bottom row. Not only can gear roll with just main stats, they can also roll with substats. So the way how substats actually work in this game is that first you need to unlock them. As you see here, this is a level 0 core that I have, and you see that they all say unlocked. Well, if I actually click upgrade, it takes me into this screen and I can enhance the gear. And you can see down here, I actually show the conditions that I need to meet in order to unlock the substats. So if I get the gear to +3, I unlock attack, +6 stats accuracy, +10 HP, and then +15, I unlock my critical chance. And this is the same across all pieces of gear, by the way. They always will unlock at these thresholds. And then once you actually meet those requirements, then you get access to the substats. As you see here, this is a fully upgraded core, and I have access to all of my substats because they no longer say unlocked. As far as obtaining substats, what's the deal with them? How do they work? You can pretty much roll any single stat that you want to as a substat. However, there is something you cannot do in this game. You cannot roll a stat that is already on that piece of gear. So for an example, you see how this main stat is actually HP. I cannot roll a flat HP substat on this piece of gear. I can, however, roll a percentage-based HP substat on this gear, but I cannot whatsoever add a flat HP increase to this gear. That doesn't work like that. But since we're on the topic of substats and main stats, let's talk about the rarities that you are seeing each of the substats in and the star level and what it all means for the piece of gear. So what this star level actually signifies is how high or how low a main stat or a substat on a piece of gear can roll. So of course, the higher the star level, the better the main stat and the better substats you can get. And you can also see that the gear piece is gold. That signifies that the gear piece actually has 4 substats on it. So that's all it means in terms of that. But you may notice that not only does the gear have a rarity, but also the substats have a rarity. And this is where you can break down the substat rarity into pretty much tiers. They go from green, blue, purple, and gold. Green, of course, being the worst, or as some people call it, tier 1, blue being tier 2, purple being tier 3 and gold being tier 4. Of course, you want tier 3 and tier 4 stuff if possible. That's like the sweet spot. And by the way, these rarities and these tiers actually have a range from where they can roll in terms of high or low. They actually do have a minimum and maximum value, as you see from this chart here. So yeah, if you want to screenshot this and really pay close attention to it, you can if you're looking for, only the highest stats possible. But I would just say if you get gold and you get purple stuff, hey man, that's good enough. I'm gonna be honest. Now you may be looking at this like,
gosh, OP, this is a lot of grinding, and to get the best gear possible, this is gonna seem like a huge time sink.
And you're damn right it is. Thankfully, Artery Gear actually has some systems in place that makes this grind a tiny bit easier. If you click on any 6-star piece of gear, you will see that there is a cast and fuse option. And these are gonna help you out tremendously on your gear grinds. If you click on fuse, you get brought up to this screen. And what this allows you to do is, let's say you have my piece of gear here. You see we have HP, attack, crit damage, and crit chance. Let's say I didn't like this piece of gear. Let's say I wanted to change this substats to something else. Well, this gear system actually allows me to do this. I can go into the material gear and you see that I can select any piece of gear that is from the same boss that this gear piece is from. So as you see, it's attack up. So that means I can only select Iron Maiden gear pieces. So let's just say, for example, I want to use this blue one. I don't, but let's just do it. And you can see that I could instantly switch over my stats. Now, here's the thing though. All of your substats on your primary gear piece, the one that you want the substats to be changed on, all of them will be removed and replaced based on what the material gear has. So as you see here, I actually will lose 2 substats due to the fact that this is only a blue piece of gear, but I will gain critical and attack up. However, I do lose the bottom 2 substats. Not only will I lose these substats, I will also be losing the material gear. So once I click start transferring, if I transfer it, then my right piece of gear is gone forever. But of course, like everything in life, this isn't free. As you see here, it will cost money and it will also cost these crystals. These are known as tier 3 crystals, and they are some of the most valuable currency in the game in terms of building your account's power. These allow you to do this fusing system. If you don't have these, guess what? You can't fuse. And the only way to get these, at least for right now, is by going into the supply shop, the trade center, and buying them every single week. As you see here, we have the tier 3s. This is what you really should be focusing on buying every single week. On the flip side, if you actually click cast, you get brought up to this menu. And this menu is a little bit different compared to the fusing menu. What this menu allows you to do is that if you have all the required materials, you will actually be able to level up one of your substats randomly to the next tier. But this system also has some restrictions. For one, you need all the stuff that you see on the right side. You need the casting parts, or as they're known in the community, cogs. You get cogs by actually going into the PvP shop and buying them. You have casting part 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1s will allow you to cast any piece of gear that has no gold substats. Tier 2 allows you to cast pieces of gear that has 1 gold substats, and Tier 3 allows you to cast pieces of gear that have 2 gold substats. You will also be needing the corresponding hunt material. So the way how you get this is actually by dismantling 6-star gear that has gold attributes, as it says down here. But it has to be 6-star gear from that boss. So this is the Iron Rose. This actually drops from the Iron Maiden. In order for you to get the Iron Rose, you need to dismantle Iron Maiden gear that has gold substats. And then finally, you need these codexes, these red codexes or special intelligence. The way how you get these for right now is only by doing target elimination, so they have a chance to drop every single time you do them. Later on down the line though, we'll be getting access to raids, and once we have raids unlocked in the game, the raids will actually be your main way of obtaining the red codexes, so you can of course cast your gear. Another thing to mention too is that not only is this random, but you cannot get more than 3 gold attributes through casting. And that's actually it in terms of how gear pretty much works in Artery Gear. There are a few things that I want to add that I think will definitely help you out if you are newer to the game and will possibly make your grind a little bit easier. But even if you're not newer to the game, these tips may be beneficial to you as well. For one, when grinding gear, I wouldn't recommend grinding gear below stage 7. The reason for that is because below stage 7, it's not worth it whatsoever. Not only is stage 7 where you should start farming, also stage 7 is the best place to farm for substats. Because as I mentioned before, you are able to transfer substats from any piece of gear as long as they are all from the same boss. boss. So let's say for an example, you farm stage 9 and you got a really good scope. Let's say it has a really good main stat roll, but you want to get some good subs on it, where you can go back to stage 7 because it only costs 24 energy and it's easier to do than stage 9 to farm for substats. Also, it's really good to farm core and plates as well because these actually drop flat main stats. So that means that it actually cannot drop it as a substat. So that makes it a little bit easier and kind of, shrinks the pool of possible substats that you can get on these pieces of gear. And this goes for all bosses, by the way. Also, I know some of you guys may be broke. I mean, you guys may look at me and think I'm broke, which, yeah, to be honest, you're not too far off. 400k is like nothing in this game. And this ain't really a gold guide, but you want to know how to get gold fast? Well, click down here to your warehouse. Go through here and you sell your gear pieces. And this is the best way how to obtain gold in the game, is by just selling gear pieces that you don't want. And as you see here, if we click disassemble, you see we get 28k plus we get the boss materials. As we mentioned before, you're going to be wanting to dismantle gold substats that you don't want to get the boss materials. So of course you can use that for casting. And as you see here, we also get gold from it. Another thing to mention too is that not only is gear used for selling, it's also used for enhancing. If you need XP, use your extra gears for XP. If you need money, then sell your gears for money. But one thing I would highly advise against is using your chips. And the reason why I say don't use your chips is not more so that you can't. It's just be very, very cautious with them. These things give you a lot of XP. These are the best ways to level up your gear pieces. However, you don't get a lot of them. There are a very finite amount of them in the game, unless you well it. And even then, there's still like a limited amount of them. So don't waste these on pieces of gear that you're clearly going to throw away, especially early on in the game. You're going to want to save these for whenever you start getting the 6-star gear, so where you can actually use them. Of course, you could use some of them to help your team get up if you need, the extra oomph. But I wouldn't recommend going plus 15 with pretty much any piece of gear early on. Once you have 6-star pieces of gear, you can use these all you want. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is my gear guide for Artery Gear Fusion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys found it informative, entertaining, whatever the case may be, because this took a lot, and I mean a lot to do. But if you have any more questions or you're still confused about some stuff, please leave it down below in the comment section. I'll be definitely helping you guys out as much as I can with any type of questions you may have pertaining to gear. Of course, we didn't talk about a lot more of the finer details, like how to build every specific character in the game, but I would recommend going to arterygear.info if you're looking for those. By the way, not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. But ladies and gentlemen, that is gonna be it for this video. Thank you all for coming out. It's been your boy OP. If you're new to the channel, amen. Stick around, subscribe. We're gonna be posting more Artery Gear content in the future along with other mobile games, and we're just gonna keep it going, man. If you like this video, enjoyed it, whatever the case may be, also make sure you drop a like on it. Helps out the channel a lot. And since you like this video, why don't you check out either one of the videos popped up on your screen right now. Great content, I guarantee you'll love them. And oh yeah, before you leave, don't forget to drink water.